Anyway, Kamala's in hot water. What's happened there, Kamala? Kamala, they're still talking about Kamala. Kamala Harris. Eh? What happened?
Ladies and gentlemen, right this very moment, their entire house of cards is quite literally coming crashing down.
Good Lord.
With every single new rock that gets turned over, we just continue to find more.
They're all criminals, innit? They're all fucking criminals.
More and more and more criminal behavior,
like
and now
bad guys.
we're actually starting to see some of
Like
the
baddies.
biggest Democrats in
They're not goodies, they're baddies.
the country get criminally implicated. In fact, you guys are going to love this. Have all of you ever stopped to consider why exactly did Kamala Harris and the Democrats choose Tim Walz, of all people, to be their vice presidential candidate when they all knew for a fact that pretty much Tim Walz has nothing but skeletons inside of his closet? He's not exactly a genius or a political savant. He's not from a highly desirable swing state that had the potential to help influence the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. No, really, he's just completely unremarkable in every single way. So the question remains, why did Kamala Harris and the Democrats choose him to be their vice presidential candidate?
really
Well, folks,
strange,
now,
isn't it?
as of today,
Is he some sort of gangster? Is he gangster? With a gun and all that? Pistols? Does he have pistols under his pillar? Them sort of gangsters.
we actually know the answer. Now, folks, to really kick things off here, do me a favor and rewind your brain all the way back to July 21st of 2024.
I forgot. That's gone.
Joe Biden has just dropped out of the presidential
I emptied the cash.
election. Kamala Harris has just stepped in to take his place as the new Democrat candidate. But Kamala Harris has one massive problem. If
that?
she is going to mount an effective presidential campaign, she's going to need money. Money, by the way, that she did not have. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is what brings us to our first bombshell report of today's broadcast. You see, as of late last night, it has now been discovered that various Democrat election committees received in total more than $1.5 billion in donations from unemployed donors during Kamala Harris's very short 3-month-long presidential campaign.
Unemployed. 1.5 billion. It don't work. It's not working.
As the Independent
get it.
report says, Democrat election committees received more than $1.5 billion in donations from unemployed donors. Act
That's a
Blue
lot of money.
specifically received almost $700 million from unemployed donors who donated in small amounts multiple times to avoid scrutiny. In October of 2024, 2.9 million separate individual
That's suspicious.
transactions
And I don't know nothing about this sort of stuff. That's suspicious.
were reported the very last month before the general election. The data
crazy.
suggests that committees are using
It's all a scam, innit? It's all a scam. A facade. It's all a lie.
high volumes of small donations to launder money and
See
avoid
it.
reporting large donations. Very curious, huh? Now, check this out. Only 4.9% of Americans are unemployed, but almost 30% of all FEC donations come from people who are unemployed.
Oh,
Where are
no.
they getting the money? Only 4.9% of Americans are unemployed in total across the country, but 30% of donations are from unemployed people?
That's
It
crazy.
just doesn't make any sense at all. Based on the data, you can easily infer that a large amount of this money is coming from government-funded programs
Yeah.
being laundered back into radically progressive political committees. In fact,
Yeah.
this is the obvious explanation.
Yep.
And so now this is
what it
where
is.
things get incredibly curious, to say the least. Ladies and gentlemen, can you guess which state the lion's share of these unemployed campaign donations came from?
Where?
That's exactly right. Minnesota directly under Governor Tim Walz's leadership, if you can even call it that. And so, folks, there's the reason why Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz to be her vice president, because Tim Walz had the money, or rather, Tim Walz had built out the single largest taxpayer-funded slush fund in the entire country. And so, yeah, sure, Tim Walz has a bunch of skeletons in his closet very clearly, but that's not really a concern when, one, he could help put together over $1 billion worth of campaign donations for the Kamala Harris campaign, and two, their friends down in Venezuela could help make sure that things go the way that they wanted them to go, if you know what I mean. But very clearly, their plans didn't exactly pan out. Thank God for that, to say the least. And so now Kamala Harris herself is absolutely melting down because guess what? She was directly involved in this entire situation. And now, by the way, in case...
Criminal bitch.
In case you haven't heard the news here, during President Trump's ongoing crackdown, we're actually already seeing some pretty major arrests as it relates to this sort of behavior. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and introduce all of you to an individual named Paul Campo, who was Barack Obama's personally appointed chief financial director for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. But now, I kid you not when I say this, yesterday afternoon, Paul Campo's house got raided by
but why?
President Trump's DOJ, and he was arrested because he was found during the Obama administration to have laundered over $12 million to various Latin American organizations. I think you all know what I'm talking about.
Ow!
Folks,
gangsters.
You can't make this up. This guy was Barack Obama's personally appointed chief financial director for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. He was doing this, and now he just got arrested. But beyond that, President Trump has also, just yesterday afternoon, surged over 2,000 DHS agents into the streets of Minneapolis, boots on the ground, knocking on doors, issuing arrest warrants. In fact, take a look at this.
They say they see these daycare centers, adult daycare centers, autism centers, home health care centers all over the place. So that's why DHS has to be here, Dana, to knock on these doors and say, you've received this much money. What'd you do with it? So we'll keep an eye on it.
And so, folks, really, this level of boots on the ground presence is frankly absolutely unprecedented. This is massive. But for some more information on this, check this out.
This is a all hands on deck across the entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
And so, folks, that is to say, yes, right this very moment, there is an active, open Department of Justice investigation into Tim Walz. And I have to say, it is about damn time. But beyond that, just this morning, the Trump administration has officially frozen an additional $10 billion worth of federal funding to another 5 radically progressive blue states, shutting down the taxpayer-funded gravy train. But you know what? As it relates to the fate of Tim Walz and the greater state of Minnesota specifically, take a look at this.
He might have been the first shoe to fall, but there's more coming. Because Keith Ellison, who is the Attorney General of Minnesota, former congressman who is a member of Democratic leadership, he is on audio, leaked audio, talking to these people, telling that he will cover up the investigations, telling that they'll tell the investigators to back off.
They're all criminals.
So this resignation or decision not to run, not a resignation, but the decision not to run is not the end of the story. the story doesn't end there. To me, it's really just beginning. And thankfully, there's a very good prosecutor in the state that is relentless. So hopefully they'll get it cleaned up.
And so, folks, like I said at the very
Hopefully.
start of today's broadcast, right now, the Democrats' entire house of cards, their entire political apparatus is coming crashing down. Their low-level grunts are now getting arrested. They're getting scooped up by DHS agents right this very moment. Their money launderers are getting their homes raided,
Crazy,
and they're
man. They're all
facing
criminals,
federal
man.
criminal charges. They're
Give them a bit of power and that, people. Become criminals and that. Become tyrants. Why, man? Evil, greedy.
foreign dictator collaborators are getting snatched up by Delta Force, and now their senior ranking politicians are about to get held accountable as well. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as I like to say, thank God for that, because this level of accountability is what it's going to take to finally put America first.
Well. Kamala Harris. People still talking Kamala Harris. Criminal. That's why. Kamala the criminal Harris. That's what it is. Money laundering and that with fucking Mexican gangster cartels and that. Busy doing stuff like that. My shoulder is killing me. It's hurting, my shoulder. It's injured. I'll put a video in the description. Matt's always good. But yeah,